Viewer Coco and Robin said, I think I may have had glimpses through the shroud a few times. These times can be big, mind-blowing experiences or daily minutiae. I know because there are times when I can see such beauty, I break down in tears. These fleeting moments have appeared and then are gone in a flash. Is this what you are talking about, Dan? Since watching your videos, I've started to find it difficult to watch other spiritual videos as I've found what you say to be true. Friend, as far as I can tell from a YouTube comment, the experiences you've illustrated here are genuine insight and they're deeply significant. Your question is very important. Clarifying insight experiences is one of the most important things we can do as we walk this path. When we have glimpses like you've described, we want to know that we are indeed glimpsing what teachers are pointing at. We want to know if our insight is genuine. We want to be sure we're not deluding ourselves. And of course, we want to know if fleeting glimpses are enough. Let's address all of this. And please watch till the end because there's a crucial point I'm going to address relating to the latter part of your comment, which I'll show later on. Now, the tears you spoke of are indeed a strong indicator of genuine insight, especially when they occur in both mind-blowing moments and in relation to daily minutiae. What you've reported represents a key realization in non-duality: equalness. The more we appreciate awareness as the common essence of all phenomena, of all stuff, the less we discriminate between things. The less we discriminate, the less we compare. And the less we compare, the more we find that a spilt pinch of salt on the kitchen counter can be just as beautiful as a masterpiece hanging in an art gallery. Also, appreciation of our own insight experiences can be incredibly moving. For example, when we cut through an anxiety we've looped on for decades and see how empty it was all along. Perhaps this is the kind of thing you were referring to when you mentioned big, mind-blowing experiences. Of course, I'd need to speak with you directly to be sure that I'm speaking accurately to your experiences. But I suspect I'm in the right neighborhood based on what most practitioners are encountering when they make similar reports to yours. Now, regarding the fleeting nature of your glimpses. Fleeting, quick, transient is absolutely enough. Even a single tiny glimpse through the shroud of dualistic perception is itself an enormous victory. Significant, profound, worthy of praise. That you've taken the time and the care to examine your experience in such a way that these glimpses are occurring is deeply admirable. And these glimpses are the beginning of all the good stuff I talk about as the results of the practice. Effortless clarity, effortless wisdom, effortless compassion, contentment, effectiveness, well-being. everyone who ever realized full-blown awakening first had glimpses through that shroud. The shroud being mental fabrication, delusion, ignorance, separateness, dissatisfaction, what the Buddha called samsara. In the Zen tradition, these glimpses are formally recognized as satori, a sneak preview of awakening. Here's something you'll find encouraging. Consider what time is like in your direct experience. Consider the teaching on presence, on the fabricated nature of what we call past and future. Consider that the only moment we can experience is now. And then consider, this is the only time awakening can occur. All of this is to say, all you need is a single glimpse. And now another, and now another. Make this your practice. Peek beyond that shroud, no matter how it appears. Perhaps in this moment the shroud is doubt. Doubt that awakening could be this simple. Acknowledge that this is just intellectual speculation. Peek beyond that shroud. Perhaps in this moment the shroud is another doubt. Doubt that you can glimpse again. Acknowledge that this is just another mental fabrication. Peek beyond. And perhaps in this moment, the shroud is a worry about how you will address what is to come later in your day. Acknowledge that this future is imaginary. Peek beyond. Acknowledge the pure awareness that is the space in which all shrouds appear. Appreciate the equalness of that space, unaffected by its contents. Acknowledge that there is nothing that occurs outside of or independent from this space. And relax. Settle. Rest. Knowing that this aware, basic space is and always has been your true nature. All there is to do is recognize it. Now, to that crucial point I promised I'd address. You said in your comment, friend, in order to access something great, we have to be something other than what we already are. I like your use of quote marks here. I use them often myself. Words are woefully inadequate for explaining what we talk about on this channel. But of course, they're the best medium we have. So we make do. I give myself and everyone else a lot of wiggle room when it comes to words. But this particular arrangement you've made here requires careful examination. Here's what I'd say instead. In order to recognize the great, timeless awareness, our true nature, we have to stop being anything at all. What we are and always have been, absent of our identification with labels and descriptions, is unadulterated, uncontrived, aware, pure space. Do you hear the flip between the things we each said? This is that crucial point. Recognizing our true nature is not about becoming something we're not, but rather letting go of everything we think we are. Now, from the viewpoint of dualistic perception, the viewpoint of the thinking mind, when we experience our first glimpses through that shroud, it seems as if we're becoming something other than what we are. This is because we're so deeply familiar with taking ourselves to be what we think we are, our identity. But the more we rest as awareness, free of labels and descriptions, the more we see that everything we ever took ourselves to be was just another label, just another description. We see that all the perceptions we took to be ourself are no different to any other perceptions, coming and going ceaselessly, vanishing like ripples in water. Yes, we see familiar patterns in those perceptions. There's no denying that the appearances of Dan appear more frequently here than the appearances of a stranger. But when I stop telling stories about Dan, he's really no different to anyone else. Here's the perception of an elbow. Here's the perception of a voice. Here's the perception of something that occurred in Dan's past. And of course, I don't experience strangers' elbows very often. Fortunately, I'm not an MMA fighter. But this doesn't mean I have to be attached to my elbow. Similarly, I don't have to be attached to my identity, or my memories, or my thoughts, or my circumstances. And absent of these attachments, I'm no longer busy trying to change them, or resist them, or make them better. I let go into what our Tibetan friends call enlightened intent, the natural manifestation of virtuous, mutually beneficial action, which occurs as naturally as a sneeze. It's all about letting go. We stop being what we think we are so we can relax into what we really are. Personalities and identities are fabricated. They are mental constructs. We don't need them. And when we drop them, we discover a natural energy that inspires our activity far, far more potently than those dirty fuels of shame, greed, and anxiety that we were raised on. Now, one last thing for you, Coco and Robin. You mentioned that you found it difficult to go back to other spiritual teachings. When practitioners begin to glimpse the truth of non-duality, it's often the case that dualistic teachings lose their appeal. I suspect those are the kinds of teachings featured in the videos you're referring to. Dualistic teachings are far more common than non-dualistic ones. What you choose to view is likely coming down to this key question. If you've seen for yourself that all you must do to realize your true nature is relax, why go back to huffing and puffing and struggling and striving in attempts to cultivate what is already so? Meditative stability is your nature. Compassion is your nature. Contentment is your nature. For one who has seen even a glimpse of this, it is possible for relativistic practices to become redundant in an instant. But an important caveat: relativistic practices are not bad. Your primary practice from here, if I'm speaking accurately given my assessment of what is only a YouTube comment, if that's the case, then your practice from here is about resting as awareness in all circumstances, in all moments. As you go about this, you may find that some moments appear more difficult to rest in than others. There is nothing wrong with taking a deep breath or reciting a mantra in the mind or whatever else you might do in that scenario if you feel you need to loosen your grip on the relative level. But regardless, the key point is to come back to the practice of natural rest and glimpse as often as you can your nature as awareness. Not separate from its contents, not a thing itself which can be looked at like an object, but rather that space in which all experience occurs, which cannot be developed through deliberate means. How could it be, when it is the very basis of all deliberate means and any results they bring? If you've understood what I've said here, friend, you've won the cosmic lottery. I am deeply, deeply happy that you're experiencing these glimpses and that you've found a home here with me and these teachings. If you've not done so yet, please take my little 1-minute quiz in the description. After you get your results, you'll be able to opt in to hear from me personally via email, where we can discuss your ongoing practice and make sure we have an open line for any further support you might need. It's very important that you can reach me if you need to, as you deepen your understanding. And of course, this is an open invitation to everyone watching right now. If you enjoyed this video, please do all the stuff that tells YouTube you want to see more of them. I upload as often as I can, and I hope to see you all back here next time.